And she said, "Ann, he didn't know I had a son, and he sure didn't know his name was Thomas."
Oh. Oh. Cool.
And she was crying, and of course I was crying. And she was very touched and impacted by that. And on more than one occasion, I would, some of the nurses would tell me that he prayed for them. So that's a recent story of who he was and what he would do when he lived his life. And those last days over there in memory care, he was mostly good in the mornings, but when I would get there, if it was a little past when he was looking for me, he would look at his watch and say, "It's 9:30. Where have you been?" Where have you been? And then one morning I would always have choir practice on Monday mornings, and it would start at 10 and wasn't on until 11. So sometimes I would be 12 o'clock before I'd get there by the time I got everything all wrapped up. And so I went in and he said, "Oh, I didn't think you were ever going to come again. I thought I'd never see you again." He was just so upset because I was that late. And so, it was upsetting to me that he was so upset. So I always tried to get there.
What about the testimony he gave where he said, you guys had been married since 1940, you had 7 kids together?
That was at the choir banquet. And all the people were sharing their history, at that, and they were talking.
You just started naming off all the numbers.
He was waiting for his turn. He wanted to talk before it was his turn, But I said, "No, it's not your turn." But then Daniel came to help get him back over next door because I couldn't push him in the wheelchair. So Daniel came in and I said, "He wants to talk before he leaves." So it was his turn. He said, We've been married since 1942, which is the year he was born.
His whole life.
Yeah. And he said, "I've got 7 children, and I've had 7 churches," and he was. But everybody
He had
was
a
so
few
sweet.
numbers off.
But he knew the basic format of what he was supposed to be doing, tell him a little bit about who he was and what his family was all about. And he was, in those last days, he would get what we called sundowners, where you weren't quite sure what was reality. And so he was always thinking we were going somewhere to do a wedding. And he'd say, "Do you have a car?" "Yeah, I have a car." "Yeah, well, you need to go get the car because it's time to go to the airport." I say, "Well, where are we going?" He said, "Well, we got to do the wedding." The wedding, talking about the wedding. So that was a frequent theme that would hit late afternoons. He would talk about people from the past. He'd talk about his family a lot. And then on some occasions, he would be fixated on one time we were coming over here for somebody's birthday party, and Paul Colvin is one of the newer residents here that had agreed to push him over. And he wanted to know who was going to be baptized. And he asked them, "Now y'all going to be baptized?" And he turned to me and he said, "You're going to be baptized, aren't you?" And I said, "I've already been baptized." And we got in the front door, and there he asked the reception, "Are you getting baptized today?" And like that was in his head that he was coming over here to do a baptism. And then the next day, Sunday, I brought him to church, and usually he would just sit there. He would shake hands with people. Sometimes he'd nod off. But this particular Sunday, he was awake when we got back over next door, and we got into where he was going to have lunch. It was lunchtime. And so he said, "May I have your attention?" to everybody. He would do that occasionally. "May I have your attention?" And then he said, he picked up his brownie like that. He said, "This is the body of the Lord." He said, I mean, everybody, they stopped, they gave their attention.
I think that's the start of a new tradition. I think we
I
got
think so, too.
Oh, that sounds good. What about telling me?
Church where they're like,
Another time when we had Overture coming and staying with us upstairs, and he wanted to leave the apartment. He was, let's go. Come on, are you coming? Come on, let's go. And I said, we're not going anywhere. Yes, we are. We're going downstairs. No, we're not going anywhere. But he was insisting. He was leaving. He was going. And when he got it in his head, he was going. He was going. And so the caregiver helped me to get him. We came down here, and there were a group of ladies. They always sit after dinner in the little coffee shop over there and watch Jeopardy, is it? Something or other. They sit there. And that particular night, there was 5 or 6 of them. I mean, that was a pretty good sized crowd for the little group that was sitting there. So we got down to the coffee shop, and he, again, may I have your attention? And sweet little ladies, they turned off the TV, gave him their attention. And he started preaching to them about how to have a good marriage. Every one of them was a widow. I mean, there wasn't a married person there. But he was going to preach to them and teach them how to have a good marriage. And so he started sharing some stuff. He was sweet as could be, and it did make sense. And he was talking nice and strong. And then he said, you need to play this song for each other every day of your lives. And it was the song he plays, For You, the John Denver song. He said, play it. Play it. And as a side note, frequently we'd get in a crowd like this, and he'd say, shall we pray? And then he'd say, pray to me. Shall we pray? So he would do that. But then on that night, he said, I'm going to play a song for y'all so that you can, and tell you that if you'll play this for each other every night, it will help your marriage. And so he started playing it, and he sang with John Denver the whole song. And these sweet, precious ladies sat there and gave him their attention. And when it was through, they clapped for him. It was so precious. And then he was through. And it was time to go back upstairs. And it was all over. He had preached to all of those little widows.
He could sing along
about
with it pretty good.
how to have, he could sing it really well. He has a sweet voice. But it was
a few days later, after that, he was telling me, he said, I did a concert for the ladies.
Those sweet little ladies.
The first day that he was by himself over there, and we checked on him the next morning to see how his night had been. And he said, how'd your night go, Dad? He says, well, they beat me with a baseball bat all night.
That's what he told us.
That one bruise on you,
They
Dad.
beat you with a baseball bat all night.
And then Debbie went over, and there was a guy in the hall screaming, you told him.
Oh my goodness, that was so hilarious. Okay, this guy was carrying on like crazy. Help me, help me, help me. Just like
Something was, he was dying.
I know, and the different nurses were not coming to him quickly, and I was going, what the?
What's going on?
What in the world? They weren't helping him. And so finally, that one of the nurses went up to him and said, Jim, what do you need? And he had been screaming like crazy. He goes, he started laughing. He thought he was hilarious.
That was Wayne.
That's hilarious.
It scared you. You didn't know what was going on.
I thought he was
Jeffrey, do you want to tell him about your birthday cake he made you?
Cut his head and had all those,
9
stitches,
stitches.
9 stitches,
He
and
might
David
want to.
texted me, said, well, they've been beating him with that baseball bat.
Oh.
Well, then we were wheeling him back over here to be with Mom, and it was a little chilly out. We were wheeling him, and I heard him. Well, Debbie was ahead of us, and he said, "That girl up there looks a little bit like Debbie." Not like her. But, and then he says, then he turned to Mom and he said, "If you're trying to make me cold, you've succeeded."
So Jesse was like really with it, and he was saying something.
For his recent birthday, we were at Memory Care and he was just dying to have the cake. You could see the cake off in the distance. So it was hilarious because he couldn't wait any longer. So he started making his own cake. He took his dinner roll and his chocolate pudding and he served Jeffrey his piece of cake that he made. And Jeffrey's like, okay, do I eat it? And being the teenage boy that he is, he ate it, yes.
Oh, that's so sweet.
It was sweet. It was sweet.
His medicine kind of made him hallucinate too.
And he would see our childhood dog. Did you see Carissa? Did you
Oh,
see her?
wow.
He saw Carissa a lot. And then that topiary, he really thought that was
That couple.
that couple over there. You see him? Like, nope. He's like, there's a couple over there. And then
Be quiet.
be quiet.
Don't disturb them.
But then when we were still in the 3-bedroom, there was one time when the girls were here that he wanted to pray for them.
Oh, yes. That was
The couple?
so sweet.
Debbie and Don were here, and they put a pillow down and knelt on it right beside him.
He did it.
He did it. He said,
threw the
bring that
pillows
pillow
down.
over here. And we
And-
sat on either side of him and he prayed for us. Yeah.
It was really good.
I wish we